Do you know what actions can invalidate your fast during Ramadan? A simple question, yet it carries profound significance for anyone observing the holy month of Ramadan. Fasting during Ramadan is one of the 5 pillars of Islam, an act of worship that draws Muslims closer to their Creator. It's not merely about abstaining from food and drink from dawn to dusk, but it's a spiritual journey aimed at purifying the soul, fostering discipline, and encouraging empathy towards those less fortunate. Now, to set the stage for this spiritual journey, one needs to have the principle of niyyah, or intention, firmly in place. Niyyah is not merely about verbalizing your intent to fast, but it's an affirmation that resides deep within your heart, a commitment to observe the fast for the sake of Allah and not for any worldly gain or recognition. It's the internal compass that guides your actions throughout the fasting period, keeping you steadfast and sincere in your worship. Niyyah is a crucial component of fasting, as it's the intention behind the action that gives it merit in the eyes of Allah. As Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, "Actions are but by intention, and every man shall have but that which he intended." Thus, even before the break of dawn, when you partake in the pre-dawn meal, or suhur, your niyyah should be clear and firm. You're fasting for the sake of Allah, seeking His pleasure and mercy. Now, with the niyyah set, you step into the day, ready to embark on the journey of fasting. But remember, this journey has its own set of guidelines and rules, and unknowingly stepping outside these boundaries can invalidate your fast. Now that we understand the significance of fasting in Ramadan and the role of niyyah, let's delve into the actions that can invalidate it. Did you know? Not all actions during your fasting period are permissible. Yes, that's right. While fasting is a time for spiritual growth and reflection, there are certain actions that can invalidate your fast. Let's dive into some of these actions. First and foremost, eating or drinking intentionally during fasting hours is a no-go. It may sound obvious, but it's important to remember. Even a small sip of water or a bite of food with the intent to break your fast can invalidate it. However, accidental consumption does not break the fast. If you accidentally eat or drink something, your fast is still valid, as the intention was not there to break it. Next, intentional vomiting is another action that can invalidate your fast. If you make yourself vomit on purpose, your fast is broken. However, if you vomit unintentionally or can't help it, your fast remains valid. Now, let's talk about something that's specific to women. The onset of menstruation or post-childbirth bleeding automatically breaks the fast, even if it happens just a few minutes before sunset. Once these conditions have ceased, women can resume fasting. Another action that invalidates a fast is sexual intercourse. Engaging in this act during the hours of fasting is not permissible and breaks the fast. It's crucial to note that, unlike other actions, this one carries a heavy penalty known as Kaffarah, which we'll discuss in a later scene. Then, there's the act of apostasy, which is the renouncement of one's faith. This is a serious action that not only invalidates the fast, but also severs one's relationship with Islam. Finally, let's touch on the subject of injections and blood transfusions. According to many scholars, these actions do not invalidate the fast unless they are nourishing in nature, like an intravenous feeding. It's important to note that the rules we've discussed are based on mainstream Islamic jurisprudence, but interpretations can vary. If you're unsure about something, it's always best to consult with a knowledgeable and trusted Islamic scholar. Remember, the purpose of fasting is to achieve taqwa or mindfulness of God and to seek His pleasure. Breaking the fast without a valid reason goes against this very purpose. So, these are the actions that can break your fast. But what if you do break it? Let's explore the consequences. Stay tuned as we delve into the outcomes of invalidated fasts and the concepts of Fidya and Kaffarah in our upcoming scenes. What happens if you unintentionally break your fast or if you have a valid reason to not fast? This is a question that arises in the minds of many who observe the fast during Ramadan. The answer lies in two key concepts in Islam, Fidya and Kaffarah. Fidya and Kaffarah are two forms of compensation that come into play when a fast is invalidated. They serve as guiding principles that help maintain the sanctity and purpose of fasting. Let's begin with Fidya. Fidya is a form of compensation that is required from those who cannot fast due to valid reasons. These reasons could be health-related, such as a chronic illness or old age or other unavoidable circumstances. The idea behind Fidya is not to punish, but to provide an alternative way for those who can't fast to still participate in the spirit of Ramadan. Typically, Fidya involves providing a meal to someone less fortunate or donating the equivalent of a day's meals to charity. This way, even if you're unable to fast, you're still contributing positively to your community. Now let's move on to Kaffarah. Kaffarah is a penalty imposed on those who intentionally break their fast without a valid reason. This is considered a serious violation as it disrupts the purpose and spirit of fasting. Kaffarah serves as a strong deterrent, encouraging individuals to uphold their fast. The penalty involves fasting for 60 consecutive days or feeding 60 needy people. This hefty consequence underscores the importance of maintaining the fast during Ramadan. However, it's important to remember that Fidya and Kaffarah are not just about penalties or compensations. They are essentially about making amends, about seeking forgiveness, and about maintaining the sanctity of the fast. They reinforce the idea that fasting is not just a physical act, but also a spiritual journey, a journey of self-discipline, empathy, and giving. Fidya and Kaffarah are not just penalties, they are also means of making amends. Let's delve deeper into these two concepts. Have you ever wondered about the specifics of Fidya? It's a term that's often mentioned during Ramadan, but what does it really mean? Let's dive into it. Fidya is a form of atonement for those who cannot fast during Ramadan due to valid reasons such as illness, pregnancy, or old age. It's not just about absolving oneself from the obligation of fasting, but it's also about contributing to the well-being of those less fortunate. So, how does one offer Fidya? It involves feeding a poor person for each day of missed fasting. This can be done by providing meals directly to the needy or through trusted charitable organizations that ensure the food reaches those who need it most. But what if you don't have the means to provide a meal? No worries. In such cases, an equivalent amount of money can be given instead. This amount should be enough to cover the cost of one meal, which varies based on the local cost of living. But when is the right time to offer Fidya? Ideally, it should be given as soon as possible after the missed fast. This way, the beneficiaries can immediately make use of it. However, if you're unable to give it immediately, it can be offered any time before the next Ramadan. Just remember, the sooner the better. As for the method of offering Fidya, it's pretty flexible. You can give it directly to those in need, or you can go through charitable organizations that have established networks for distributing aid. Some even offer online platforms where you can make your contribution without leaving your home. Remember, Fidya isn't just about fulfilling a religious obligation. It's an opportunity to help those less fortunate, a chance to share your blessings with others. It's a reflection of the spirit of compassion and charity that's at the heart of Ramadan. Fidya is a compassionate way to compensate for missed fasting days. Now let's turn our attention to Kaffarah. What if you intentionally break your fast without a valid reason? Enter Kaffarah. Kaffarah, derived from the Arabic word kafara, meaning to cover, is an expiation or redemption for certain violations during Ramadan. It's a severe penalty designed to emphasize the sanctity of the fast and deter individuals from breaking it without a valid reason. So, what does kafara entail? Well, there are two main routes. The first involves fasting for 60 consecutive days. Yes, you heard right, 60. This isn't just a weekend cleanse, it's a 2-month commitment that requires discipline, dedication, and a deep respect for the sanctity of the fast. The second route is for those who can't fast for 60 consecutive days due to health reasons or old age. Instead, they're required to feed 60 poor people. The feeding should be to the level that's considered a full day's meal for an average person. This act of charity not only serves as penance, but also as a reminder of the importance of compassion and community during Ramadan. Now, when should you offer kafara? It should be offered as soon as possible after the violation. The sooner the better. As for how to offer it, whether it's fasting or feeding the poor, it's important to do it with sincerity and humility. Remember, the purpose of kafara is not just to make up for a broken fast, but also to encourage reflection and spiritual growth. Let me be clear. Kafara is not a get out of jail free card. It's not an easy way out. It's a serious commitment, and it's a direct reflection of the weight and importance of observing the fast during Ramadan. So, if you find yourself in a situation where you've intentionally broken your fast without a valid reason, take a moment to reflect. Understand the gravity of what you've done and be prepared to undertake the responsibility of kafara. Kafara is a severe penalty, a stark reminder of the sanctity of Ramadan fasting. Let's summarize everything we've learned so far. So, what have we learned today? We've journeyed through the sanctity of Ramadan, understanding the importance of fasting and the actions that can invalidate it. We've learned that a fast isn't just about abstaining from food and drink, but also about maintaining moral and ethical conduct. This includes refraining from false speech, avoiding arguments, and abstaining from sinful actions. We've also learned that certain physical actions, like intentional eating and drinking, can break our fast. In the event that a fast is invalidated, we've discovered two mechanisms for making amends: Fidya and Kaffarah. Fidya, we've learned, is a form of compensation for those who are unable to fast due to reasons beyond their control, such as illness or old age. This compensation typically involves feeding a needy person for each day of missed fasting. On the other hand, kafara is a penalty for intentionally breaking a fast without a valid reason. It's a more severe form of compensation that involves fasting for 60 consecutive days or feeding 60 needy people. We've also discussed the appropriate times for offering fidya or kafara. Fidya can be offered during or after Ramadan, once it's clear that the missed fast cannot be made up. Kaffarah, however, should be offered immediately after the violation of the fast. Importantly, we've underscored the need to approach Ramadan with sincerity and devotion. It's a time for spiritual reflection and growth, a time to strive towards bettering ourselves and our connection with our faith. So, as we navigate through the blessed month of Ramadan, let's remember the importance of maintaining the sanctity of our fasts. Let's be aware of actions that can invalidate our fasts and make amends appropriately if they're compromised. Remember, the essence of Ramadan is not just about abstaining from food and drink, but also about deep spiritual reflection and growth. Strive to honor this holy month in the best way possible.